Today, I'm going to give you 3 tips to help you stop yelling at your children. Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Kat Moore and I help parents connect more deeply with their children by transforming the relationship that they have with them through adjusting their parenting and their mindsets. The first important part is going to be self-empathy and forgiveness practices. This is the most important part if you want to transform your parenting. It's really important that if we yell at our children, we stop and we are able to look at ourselves and say, wow, that was really hard and that was really challenging for me to have to deal with. I'm still learning. This is a hard path to do. My feelings are valid and I forgive myself. It's important to do these things because it kind of sets things up so that you can deeper empathize with your children. It's hard to empathize with other people when you're not really quite able to empathize with yourself, especially when they're doing the things that you're beating yourself up for the most. This is so much easier said than done. When you're angry, it can be really hard to feel like you're worthy of forgiving yourself or giving yourself that empathy, especially if you've just yelled or done something to your children that could be harmful in some way, emotionally or physically. It can really be hard to be like, I forgive myself and I'm deserving of empathy in that moment. But you need to know that you are worth empathy even when you make mistakes. So, I don't know. I know that it's really hard for me when I'm angry to feel like it's okay for me to empathize with myself, like my feelings are okay in any way. It's really hard to validate that. Go ahead and drop a comment below if you have a hard time with that too. If you do this every time that you mess up, it can really help with it can help you learn how to give grace to your children as well as to feel better about yourself and your own triggers. The next tip that I have for you is to reframe your mindset. I consider this one to be almost, if not just as important as the self-empathy step. However, I also think that without self-empathy, that it's great in theory, but without the self-empathy, it's hard to put it into practice. It's important that we reframe our mindset because children are often working from impulse. They do not have any impulse control. Typically, impulse control will not develop until around 5 to 7 years of age, and isn't completed developing until 25 years, around that. These are all ballpark estimates, of course. So it's really important to remember that the part of their brain that can step in and say, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this because of this reason, isn't developed enough to actually do that. So it doesn't really matter how much a child knows that something is wrong, because I know they know that the things that they're doing are not okay. But that impulse control doesn't step in to actually stop them from doing the thing that they know full well isn't okay. So that's why a lot of people get caught in, my kid knows that it's wrong, why would they still do that? And it's honestly because they're incapable of stopping themselves from doing that. It's also important to remember that behavior is communication of a need. And that means that when a child is acting up in any way, that there is some kind of a need underlying that is not being met, that they don't really feel is being met. So if we're able to dig to the root, and usually, honestly, so much of the time that issue is connection. But if you can dig to that, if you can dig down and find that need and meet that need, you'll be able to stop that behavior from happening by naturally meeting the need that the child is trying to get met. And also, it's important, children are exploring their world. There are so many things for them to touch and feel and taste and hear and walk across, and everything that they can do to explore their world, they are going to do. They are not testing your boundaries because you told them no and they're still trying to do something. They are just trying to explore because that is what their drive is telling them to do. And we can let them if we are able to reframe these behaviors in our mind, we can actually give them so many opportunities to explore. It's a really beautiful thing. I strongly encourage that anybody who's having a hard time with this change of mindset, this lens change, as it is often called, to pick up this book, The Explosive Child by Ross Greene, as well as Self-Reg by Stuart Shanker. Both books are amazing. This goes into the theory of kids do well when they can, which is absolutely true, as well as deep problem solving skills for any age, any neurotype, absolutely anyone. This works with adults. Is honestly, this method can be how you approach your life. And the same goes for Stuart Shanker's book. It says how to help your child and you break the stress cycle and successfully engage in life, because it does help you learn how to manage your own stress as well, and that can really be beneficial when you're trying to learn how to stop yelling. So I will include both book links down below. Also, click like if you've read these, because they are awesome books and they transformed. This was the first book that I read. This was the first book that I read before I started this parenting journey, and it has changed my life. So please click a like if you've read this book before. If you've only gotten a little bit, let me know. I'm interested to see who all has read this book. Okay, so the third thing is going to be the self-check-in. It is really important that you check in with yourself and see how you're feeling. We get really out of touch with ourselves and how we're feeling inside, because as we go through our day, we kind of just react and react and react to the things as they come to us. We don't really think deeply about how much of those things we are shoving away and burying and just letting build up and build up. So it can be really, really helpful to start a practice of a self-check-in. Do not go overboard on this. When I first started, I had it set for every 2 hours I would try to do a self-check-in, and that was way too much for me, especially because I didn't know what to ask myself, how to truly check in. In order to help you guys with that, I've included a PDF below, a self-check-in checklist that can help you ask the questions that you're not normally used to asking yourself, that can start you on being able to identify those things that as they're coming up. So for example, there are physical, emotional, and mental issues, things that pile up throughout the day. So it can be valuable to stop and think, what am I thinking right now? Am I thinking, my kid's such a brat? Like, is that what I'm thinking? Okay, well, maybe I need to readjust my mindset around this thought so that we can proceed in a more connected way. Then you get to the emotional side of it, and you can feel it in your heart and just stop and really feel inside of yourself and think, what am I feeling right now? Am I feeling like I'm hurt because of something that my child said? Am I internalizing something that my child said because it was something that is triggering from some other source in some way? How can we work with that and deal with that and validate and move with that feeling? So it's a checklist that goes through all of those three, as well as gives a bonus section of some little things that you can do when you realize, if you're doing your self-check-in and recognize that maybe you're not quite feeling 100%. So I hope you really found this valuable, and I will be coming out with more content so that you can help stop yelling, because I know that it is a heck of a journey and a process, and I want to help you on it. So make sure to click subscribe and click on the little bell so that you can be notified of any other videos that I'm going to be putting up. Thank you so much. Bye.